Appreciate you being here. I think we're almost done for the day, so hopefully people are still awake. My name is Miheer. I've been working at Limelight, well, since the inception, about 4 years ago. We started live streaming sports in virtual reality, starting with college sports, college football and college basketball in the US, with the likes of Fox Sports. We've done English Premier League with Sky Sports in the UK. In fact, we even worked with Star Sports last year for the IPL. But I think one of the biggest events that we did was we worked with the World Cup last year, where we live streamed the World Cup in 17 countries with partners around the world. We built a platform which is wide enough for broadcasters. I've lived in the US for quite a while, so my accent is starting to mix a little bit, which I just caught myself doing, so I apologize for that. But yeah, we're based out of New York, but we have an office in Gurgaon as well. So we have about 20 people in India working on all sorts of VR applications, both headsets and non-headsets related. In fact, we have a demo video, which I don't know if it's there or not. If they can play at some point, maybe it'll be easier for people to understand what we do. But in the meantime, I can let you go on.
Sure. So my name is Snehaal Dhruve. I run a company called Fan.ai, and essentially it's a digital interactions on autopilot. And what that essentially means is the entire conference today, right? So there are new formats of content consumption, but one thing is principally there is kind of getting an aggregated view of a user across these digital interactions. So that's what our platform does. And essentially we work with pretty much media entertainment. So your Yash Raj to Dharma to Fox to majority of the movie production houses and brands as well in adopting these new technologies. So some of our recent work has been with Foxstar Studios for Sanju in terms of doing the filters and how people are interacting, and then extending that engagement to the social platform. So and then lots of brands as well, like Mahindra Racing and a couple others.
Do we have the video? We can roll the video. Okay, we'll see if we can get those towards the end. So, I'm massively excited about the idea of bringing the stadium home. Being a foreigner living in another country, there's so many events that I miss out on back home, and I just wish I could be there. So, thinking about it practically, the huge elephant in the room for bringing the stadium home, something that was raised yesterday in one of our panels yesterday, is how do we do this, considering the fairly low number of home VR headsets in homes, especially in India, not just the rest of the world.
So, this was something that we realized pretty early on. Obviously, when you're growing, when you're starting a company and raising venture capital funding, the numbers matter, the growth rate matters. So, being dependent entirely on the hardware headset market wasn't something that we felt comfortable at the beginning. So we actually developed a non-headset version of our headset experience pretty early on. And one of the things that we did over there was give you a similar feel, which was it was very interactive. It was social. The experience was social. So you and your friends, no matter what devices you were on, whether you had a headset or not, you could talk to each other and watch the games together. That actually drove consumption and data to prove that when you had someone with a headset, they stayed for an X amount of time for X number of sessions, whereas the experience might have been slightly different, lower number of sessions, but more time spent when there wasn't a headset. But that mixing of headset and non-headset was something that was really important. So in India, for example, where the hardware headset penetration is even lower than the US. It's actually low everywhere around the world, frankly, but if you look at percentages, obviously, it's lower in India. Web VR starts playing a role, mobile AR, the previous panel talked about it, or AR lenses and AR kit and AR core coming into play is going to help, but I think it's a long-term play. I feel like the industry went through a little bit of a hype cycle, so everyone expected everything to just be there within 2 years. The hardware is improving, the costs are coming down. So once that starts, and I think one of the things that I don't know how far out 5G is, but once edge computing comes into play and the processing power is taken out, from the actual devices that people put on their heads and more onto the edge device, it will open up the market for a lot of people, because suddenly you're not buying powerful PCs with expensive graphics cards to get those similar experiences that you today get with the expensive headsets.
For sure. So it kind of brings us on to our second elephant, which is how do we get the promoters and indeed the sponsors to actually invest in live casting their event in VR? What do we do to get a decent ROI for that?
Sure. So that's the challenge that we presently solve from client perspective. So we don't have our device or anything, but what we basically help our clients is adapt these new technologies. And part of it, at least last year, the story that we're saying is AR in Bollywood was like the same, and that's I think a stepping stone, right, to kind of get to eventually VR. And especially device costing and everything is so high, so the adaptation is always going to be low. So that being said, it's very vital to use these formats to kind of provide the first level experiences, and then eventually get to, as you correctly said, like it's at least 2 to 3 years away. But to embark on that journey is very vital to start today, right? So let's say from an advantage perspective, what we did on AR last year is a stepping stone saying, hey, we did AR, we failed at, let's say, the first filter that we did, but then we had like a second and a third that did much better. And now, even from the customer perspective, they are starting to understand the value or brand engagement that can occur. And then, brands are jumping on saying, hey, there's this content now, it had X number of reach. So let's say one of our recent ones was a 2.0 Akshay Kumar filter, in which we had 1 million users in a day, right? Which is substantially higher than India specific. And this was on a Facebook filter that we had deployed. And one of the learnings from that was that, yeah, now India is ready for AR, but now it's also, these brands understood that, yeah, we have to get early on to VR as well. So this year on the story is about what can we do in VR, right? So we're working with lots of sports teams as well, in terms of, what's the value. And it's not about that you would immediately receive an ROI, it's a long-term ROI that we're focusing on. And a very vital example that we give in the space is, let's say, what TCS did with YouTube, right? So early on, 5 years back, they didn't know that we were the biggest YouTube channel out there, and compared to across the world, right? But they embarked on it, they gave it a try, they started working and exploring, and then now they became the biggest. So with VR also is going to be the same thing, that you need to try, you need to fail, you will get data, and then that's what will set you apart from anybody else. And then we know that content is in abundance right now, OTT players and entities are jumping on. So might as well start having some content that people can experience. Might not be best for present URI, but for long-term URI, it's definitely out there.
I mean, I agree with that. I'm just piggybacking on that. These gateway experiences, which are web VR or the mobile AR, the Pokemon Go experience, right? It's not truly augmented. It's the simplest form of AR that there is, but those kind of experiences are really important for the mass market to actually get their hands dirty with this new technology, right? So even if you take the example of, we worked with BBC in the UK for the World Cup, and they had about 350,000 users. Throughout the tournament, England made a run, went into the semis, so I guess people were really excited about it. And out of those 350,000, 90 to 95% of them came without a headset. So it wasn't technically even a VR, quote-unquote virtual reality experience. It was much more of an interactive 360 experience. But then at least people knew what they were missing out on by not having a headset. And we found over the course of the tournament, we found there was a conversion. A lot of those people who were coming in, if nothing else, they were at least putting the Google Cardboard on, because if you had a phone and you had the same app would do it with or without the Google Cardboard or regular interactive 360 experience. If you wanted to have the Oculus or the VR experience, obviously you needed the headset, and that was a different OS altogether. But that shift, those gateway experiences are important, but also for your question about what needs to happen for brands and these publishers to come out with their content. I mean, that wider reach is essentially helping them as well justify the cost, right? So suddenly the same amount of money that you were spending for 20,000 people in the headset versus 300,000 people in the overall experience without headset, the costs are justified. And then brands also start taking an interest in there. So I think it's an evolution, and more people are. Towards the end of last year, everyone at Live, we definitely saw a little bit of a dip in interest. but 2019, I mean, the start of the year, people from different parts of the world have started taking it. So Asia Pacific, for example, was not taking a look at it very seriously until now, but now, the basketball World Cups in China, rugby World Cups in Japan, the Olympics are in Japan. So I'm only speaking obviously from a sports perspective because that's what we focus on. But they are starting to take interest. So then again, the broadcasters that are showing those same sports in the US are, okay, the content's already there, why not just take it? There's no cost associated with it, separate cost associated. So I think it's a site.
So I want to talk a little bit about the different platforms for actually putting out Stadium VR. So obviously we have things like Next VR and obviously your platform, Lifeline, which are kind of standalone. And with Next VR, it's public and yours is white label. So on Next VR you'll go on and you'll have a list of events that you can go on to with subscription. It could be comedy, it could be stand-up comedy, it could be live music. Then we have social VR, so things like VR chat, Space VR, and they're already hosting events within their social VR platform. Then we have gaming. We don't necessarily have a huge online community for gaming VR. If we look at the success of the recent Marshmallow in Fortnite, which is your classic 2D gaming, 10 million people stepped in for that concept. It's a huge, huge number, so there's a big potential there, which I feel is untapped. And then we have OTT providers who are now investigating into this whole idea of should we invest in Stadium VR. So with all of these different places that it's coming from, that people are able to access it, which do you see is kind of coming out on top? Do you see one emerging over the others?
So I think it's early to say who's a winner, but I think from a creator perspective, it's a really exciting time because we have this platform working that you can leverage, you can quickly experiment. So I think one of the things, and this is from my F8 experience last year, so Facebook has a conference annually, and they release Oculus Moves, which is basically like a social experience that can be done. And of course, like that was, I think, a leap forward. Of course, there were different formats and different platforms, but things like this, like bigger platforms can kind of solve this and embark a journey for the rest of us, and then once you have enough experience or what can be leveraged best, definitely like there are emerging platforms like you are coming as well. But essentially, that is very vital. So one is where you can deploy content. The other is your content creators themselves being excited about the space. That let's say through recent news that I've heard that Jio has a mandate of generating 4 hours of content at least to be there on the platform that a user can consume. Right? It might not be immediate, but from a long-term vision, that's amazing because then you already know that there's this big opportunity that you can embark now. 4 hours of VR content is like truly amazing if they're targeting it day over day, right? So it's using these as a leverage right now is very vital.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you mentioned the different platforms that you were talking about there, like I think OTT is a very different use case, right? I mean, that's essentially like Netflix versus Star Sports, or like it's VOD versus live. I think there, obviously OTT is gonna be more successful right now, especially as internet and the bandwidths that are available to users start increasing or have gone up already with the launch of Jio. But when it comes to VR specifically, if you look at AllSpace, Oculus Rooms is pretty much AllSpace VR.
Now we have Oculus Venues.
Events, yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, Oculus Venues is essentially what AllSpace was. Just it's more general purpose. Get your friends and watch whatever content is there, rather than coming for a specific event per se. Whereas what we're doing is more gather around to watch this event. So it's more event specific. I have which one will win, I guess, in the long term. But if you look at gaming and how gaming and MMOs and the whole world of MMOs started, people are just talking to each other. Fortnite, I mean, a lot of people say that Fortnite and all of these platforms actually help them just feel part of a community, even though they might not be actually interested in the actual game or might not be playing. They're just there, they're talking to people from different parts of the world. I think that's more akin to the Oculus Venues experience. Whereas if I'm watching, Real Madrid versus Barcelona game, and I just want to be in a room with other Madrid fans so that we can troll Barca fans, that's a very good use case as well, right? Like then you're going specifically for that reason, and you want to be with like-minded people. So there's different flavors, I guess. But yeah, I have no idea.
So moving on to kind of our next challenge. So when I go for a concert, I want to feel the kick of the bass in my belly. I want to be in the middle of that hot, sweaty crowd. I want to be meeting those random people around me. So obviously the social aspect of event VR is something very attractive. But there's a certain psychological and physiological effect that you receive when you're in an audience at a live event. And this is something that hasn't really been addressed. Obviously haptics addresses it. What do you see are the challenges for people choosing to have a VR experience over a live experience and missing out on those very, very physical things?
So I think one of the challenges, especially with VR, has been is like the headset itself, like kind of experiencing. While there is haptic and other things that are being tacked on, but it's still like too much work to kind of be there and sort. Versus like it's really easy to be there and then you kind of control the experience. The limitation with this is like it's an augmented experience of sort and giving you a feel of being there, but it's not still being there, right? And there are these social components and there are various things that have to be patched on to kind of have a holistic experience, which is I think very far away. And it is something that's like Ready Player One, right? I love that movie, right? If I can experience something like that, I think I'm game on, right? I will never kind of leave the space. I'm always there. But even as an avid lover of technology and lover of adapting to these things, like I cannot wear a headset for more than 15-20 minutes. I have to take a break and kind of get myself oriented and then kind of come back in. But it's still like too much equipment to kind of go there. So I think the way the devices are right now, it's too much to kind of, for a long-term engagement, kind of involve.
I actually don't see that as a problem at all, because I think it's a different story if you were like, instead of going to my local playground, I'll just put on a headset and feel like I'm there. I don't think that's the use case that most companies are going for. This is if you're you're growing up in Mumbai like I did, and you are watching basketball and you're a Michael Jordan fan and a Bulls fan, you're never going to get that experience anyway. So how do you get that experience is what VR is, or these immersive experiences are giving you. I mean, the statistics for how many fans Manchester United has. I mean, the whole English Premier League, or just London as a city has 8 football clubs or whatever there are, which you probably know better. And they have, 1 billion fans around the world, and like in a city of maybe 10 million people. So it's your local neighborhood club that's become global. And now I'm growing up in Mumbai and I'm watching Arsenal Chelsea play. It's not replacing real life experiences. It's replacing experiences that you're never going to have in any case, or it's giving you new experiences that you're never going to have in any case. So I don't see that as an issue at all.
I have one thing to add on this. So in one of the panels yesterday, it was discussed how it's very unlikely that people will go to a cinema to watch a VR film en masse. I disagree with that. Not so much in the world of film, but when it comes to concerts. So the reason why a lot of people haven't got VR headsets at home is we can't afford it. The same reason why I haven't got a huge television in my living room is because I can't afford a big enough house, I can't afford a big enough TV. But I can go to the cinema to experience that very big widescreen experience. So a way to solve this problem of acoustics, feeling the music, I mean this doesn't apply to sports so much, but certainly when it comes to music, is say you have a huge VR setup in a concert room. Say you have the sound system there, you're not even using the VR audio, you're using the VR visual, but you're getting the audio as the audience at the concert will be hearing it. So say I'm watching the opera in London, which is actually going on in Sydney. Say I'm watching an EDM concert somewhere in Mumbai that's actually going on in Belgium and Tomorrowland. and I'm getting those physical experiences. So really, I mean, we've seen these little tiny setups happening at PVR cinemas, and it popped up in Chennai, they're saying it's coming to Mumbai, but it's really 4 or 5 people. If that investment happens, if that need is there for reproducing en masse these huge VR experiences, and then it's no different to going to the cinema, going to a concert, but you're experiencing immersion. So kind of going back to the social aspect of it. So when we think about all these people coming from all over the world to unite, whether it's because they like a particular sports team, whether it's because they love a particular musician, one of the wonderful bits of potential we have here is people from different geographies, different cultures, all coming together on that very social platform and exchanging ideas and bonding. But we kind of already have this. We already have Facebook, we already have social media, but this kind of utopian thing hasn't really happened. Instead, I mean, maybe it's the way that algorithms work, where you only kind of see stuff in your newsfeed that you agree with. There's trolling, there's hate speech, there's a huge, huge Pandora's box that's open with conventional social media. As kind of gatekeepers of the VR social world, we have a certain responsibility. So what do you see that people should be doing in this space to kind of prevent similar problems to what we have in conventional social media happening in the VR space? Like, we don't want the kind of VR equivalent of having football hooligans fighting each other in the virtual space. What kind of things should we be doing to stop that?
I think it's a combination of one of the things, because we work a lot on social platforms. And let's say a specific campaign, like whenever you do anything with Sharma, one of our clients, one of the things that we experience is this hate speech, right? People are abusing, people are saying, Akla, and things like that, right? So where our AI system starts kicking in is extrapolating or heading on that negative speech that's going on, right? So that's the detection component. I think VR sort of has to adapt a similar kind of thing, where you kind of determining what kind of language exchanges are happening to having that kind of a moderation filter in terms of being in a social space. And I think that would be like a good stepping stone to kind of filter that noise out. And then, like of course China has done it at a very huge scale, but it's kind of a similar thing, right? It's behavior monitoring that you're doing, and then based on that, you kind of qualify for some category of events, not, or you're utilizing that to kind of make sure you always have like a sound audience or like a healthy audience or a more proactive audience.
Yeah, in our case, when we launched our social experience, which is actually limited to 4 people, random strangers or your Facebook friends, we actually give the users the choice. So if you have someone who's loud, abusive, or in general just creating some sort of discomfort, you can mute them, you can kick them out of the room. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, you're out type of a situation. So we've created those kind of rules in there. I think it's a little bit, at least the way, even Oculus venues for that matter, because it's, I guess once you start getting into the multiverses, it starts becoming a little bit difficult to control it. That's why we actually limited our experience to only 4 people, because otherwise it's too difficult to even discern who's saying what and where's the noise coming from. But those kind of moderation tools were the thing that we had to do right before. I mean, our apps wouldn't even have been published or passed through the QA checks on the App Store if we hadn't put those things in there. It's slightly easier for now because there aren't that many people using it. But I know the point is absolutely valid in terms of how do you stop that from growing. I do see a little bit of a difference between what you see on a newsfeed or algorithmic versus I see the VR experience more akin. I brought up the example before, but more akin to the gaming experience where you're actually, it's a multiplayer game and you're talking to people that you've never really heard of or spoken to before, but you're playing the game with them and you just become friends with them. And if someone starts being abusive, you just switch and talk to someone else. There is no one's making you. Unlike on Twitter or something like that, where you get the only option is either you block comments or you leave the platform. So that sort of cyberbullying is not as big of an issue, at least the way it's constructed right now.
Fantastic. So finally, in my world at the moment, when we use VR in events, it's not very often to live cast events, sadly. It's more often as part of an activation. It's more often as part of the original content that's part of the show. With the advent of 5G and exciting things like the Magicverse and an extra layer of reality, so rather than kind of bringing the stadium home, it's bringing a new layer of reality to the stadium. What are your thoughts on what we can expect in the future in this space? And how does it tie in with what you currently do?
So, I think 5G is going to open up a lot of possibilities. I mean, again, people have been speaking about 5G for quite a while now, and it started feeling like, okay, this is just a buzzword, there's nothing really to it. But I think this year, again, I'm coming in from a little bit more of a US-centric perspective, just because that's where US and Europe as well, that's where 5G is on its way to being deployed in some cities starting at the end of this year itself. And there's a lot of R&D that's being done. Some of the work that we ourselves are doing are, I mentioned earlier, edge computing, right? And if you have a device at home that can take away all the computing and processing onto that device, and suddenly your phone can just be a dumb delivery vehicle rather than expecting the phone to do all the processing, which means battery power and all of these hardware constraints that come into play. Again, switched off experiences are not possible, or are possible, but require a really expensive, cumbersome setup. All of those things do become possible with edge computing and 5G coming into the picture. Foveated rendering is really important, especially if you want to deliver 360 video and high quality. Today, the reason 360 video is so bad in quality is because, especially from light perspective, VOD is slightly different ballgame. From a light perspective, 360 video really sucks.